Alright, in this video we're going to do right triangle trigonometry. So when you're talking about trig, you're talking about in relation to angles. We're going to do the easy stuff today, the right triangle stuff. This is like your sine, cosine, and your tangent. You guys have done this before, so you know that the sine is the opposite side over the hypotenuse. And you know that the cosine is the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. And you know that tangent is the opposite side over the adjacent side. So when I'm talking about this, we're going to start using the term theta, which is this symbol, for the angle every single time. So theta is going to be the angle. So if I'm looking at a right triangle and I want to figure this out, the opposite side is this one right here across from it. The adjacent side is this one right here next to it. And the hypotenuse is across from the 90 degree. So you guys have done all that before. We're going to add a couple more to it. What we're going to add to it is the secant, the cosecant, and the cotangent. So we're going to look at these guys, and we're gonna talk about how we find each of them. Oh, sorry, this is the wrong thing for the cotangent. For cotangent, we want to do that. Okay, so the secant, that is the inverse of the cosine. So the inverse of the cosine is going to be the hypotenuse over the adjacent. The cosecant is the inverse of the sine, which is going to be the hypotenuse over the opposite. And the cotangent is going to be the inverse of the tangent, which is going to be the adjacent over the opposite. So we will find the sine, cosine, and tangent, but we'll also find the secant, cosecant, and cotangent. Okay, so we're going to deal with all of that stuff. So when we're dealing with this, if I have something that tells me this is the theta, and this side is 14, and this side is 11, and it wants me to find the other side, which is the hypotenuse. It wants me to find that, and it wants me to find the angle, and it wants me to do all that stuff. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to find the angle. So I'm going to say I have the opposite and adjacent, so I'm going to use I'm going to use the tangent. So the tangent of theta equals the opposite side over the adjacent side, which means the tangent of theta is equal to 14 over 11. Why did I write it twice? Sorry. So to cancel this out, I'm going to do the inverse tan, and I'm going to do that on both sides. So theta is equal to the inverse tangent of 14 over 11. I'm going to approximate my angle to 2 decimal places. So on the calculator, I'm just going to go in and do the inverse tangent. If I can find the inverse tangent on this calculator. If I can find the inverse tangent on this calculator, there's a trig button. So the inverse tangent of 14 over 11 gives me, okay, and mine's in radians, so it's going to give me approximately 0.905, and that's in radians. If I was in degrees, I didn't change it, so let me try again. I can't change it. I don't know why. I'm having trouble changing it. So I'm just going to ignore it for now. I will show you guys how to do it in class. So that's the angle in radians. So if I want to find the other side, I can use the Pythagorean theorem, which tells me a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Or I can use one of these that uses the hypotenuse. I could use the sine of theta equals the opposite side, which is 14 over the hypotenuse, which is what I'm trying to solve for. So I'm going to multiply by the hypotenuse, and then I'm going to divide by the sine of theta. And I know that my theta is 0.905. So I'm going to go 14 divided by the sine of 0.905. And it tells me 17.8021. So I'm going to go 17.80 approximately. That's the length of the hypotenuse. I should get the same thing if I did this. It wants me to find all of them, so I'm going to find the cosine of theta, which I'm just going to put in the calculator. Cosine of 0.905 is 0.618. I'm going to go 3. That's the cosine. So I'm going to do the sine. I already did. No, I didn't. Sine of theta equals, these are approximates. Sine of theta 0.905, approximately 0.986. And I'm just putting them in the calculator, so that's pretty simple. So that's what we're going to be doing today.